store that has traditionally had foodstuffs and also has traditionally sold alcohol. There's been a license issued for that location in the past. Her plan is to continue that operation along the lines of another store that she owns, which does not have a liquor license, which is the Kentuit Fresh Market in Kentuit, Mass. Her plan is, it is seasonal, it's a seasonal location, so the store is closed in the off-season, and it's an area that in the summer seasons, the population grows significantly, as you're aware, and there are no other package stores that are in close proximity there. So for public convenience, it is a suitable location for a license.
Okay. Anybody on the public? This public hearing, does anybody in the public have any comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none, any questions or issues from the board?
None at this time.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion to close the hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion on the application itself?
Yes.
Carol motions to approve the application as provided. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
You're all set? Good luck with your business.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You didn't need him. As David pointed out, no good deed goes unpunished. I got Chief Lopez's birth date wrong. It's the 16th, so we are ahead of the game for a change. Good wishes remain the same. All right.
Before our next meeting anyways, right?
True.
So,
All right. We just done. All right. Discussion of certification of the hiring process for EMT, firefighter EMT Sean Clifford.
Yep, all of the procedures and policies of the town were complied with. Appointing authorities, the fire chief, just looking for the certification of the process so that the appointment can take effect.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Second?
second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, it's approved. Next, series of DPW-related items. So, Catherine.
Good evening.
Good evening. You want to just walk us through this pile?
Sure. Do you mind if I take them slightly out of order?
Whatever order you'd like.
So if we can jump to the last one, the reconsideration of the extension of the license to Gotta Do Contracting for the shared use waste area. So you have a memo from me with a set of revised license conditions for the operation. And I think the things to point out specifically are that commercial businesses would not be permitted. They've actually stopped allowing commercial businesses already. Grinding of brush would not occur except if required by the town after a storm event, as we do allow residents to dispose of brush at the transfer station. And then also that there are some changes in the time of year restrictions for the activities. So you do have, as I mentioned, a tracked copy of the license conditions which show the changes. With us tonight are also Wes and Patrick Gregory from Gotta Do Contracting that can answer any questions. But my recommendation is, with these revised conditions, that the board consider extending the license for an additional year.
2 years.
1 year.
1 year.
Any questions, comments from the board? Mr. Collins.
I just want to point out, I know that there's a gentleman here that wanted to make a comment. He signed up under public comments, and
He's welcome to speak to this issue if you'd
yeah,
like.
I just know public comments is later.
No, I know, but I'm happy to entertain a comment if somebody wants to speak to something on the
And
agenda.
I know the contractor's here too, so.
All right, my only, but before we get to that, I just want to make sure that there's just a 1 year, and we're going to do this year to year?
Correct.
Okay, So I think, there's potential that, our needs on that transfer station site may change with potential expansion of the wastewater treatment facility down the road. I just want to make it clear that, if we do this on a year-to-year basis, it's until and unless the town needs change and there's not an expectation by the lessee that you're there permanently. It's really going to be year-to-year. Is that agreeable and understood? Getting a nodding head. Okay. All right. Is there someone from the public who wants to comment on this issue? Sir, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphone and identifying yourself, happy to hear what you have to say. We've asked people to try and keep their comments to 3 minutes.
My name is John Smith, 27 Sewell Drive. One of the butter there, and it was caught with a surprise. As you know, Mr. Collins, he's been in my house. And if that operation had been going before I bought the house, I never would have moved there. Simple as that. You've got a processing facility, it interrupts everybody that lives in the neighborhood. Then on top of that, it attracts more heavy trucks, semi-trucks. Now, if you think this guy is not going to, if you think he's going to reduce his workload, he's not. You're going to have more semi-trucks with semi-jump trailers going into the neighborhood. That's not meant for that. Then on top of that, he could enter into a hired contract with commercial contractors who operate trucks. And technically, they would be got-to-do tractors or got-to-do trucks. So as far as I can see, he's not going to reduce his profit margin. And the reason why he came to the town, from what I can gather, is they leased their property to a solar farm. And obviously, the land refuse reclamation projects that they had going on Marston Mills was very profitable. So they had to find another piece of land that they continued their operations. Unfortunately, like Mr. Collins said, and I believe Mr. Gottlieb said, that the town was given a whole bunch of goods last year. We did not anticipate, from what I've been told, that operation was going to happen. It was going to be more for a lawn-and-plot landscaping operation. That did not happen. And for the most part, for the whole year, my doors are closed, my windows are closed because of the stench that comes from the landfill. I can't imagine the type of weeds I got in my yard right now because of all the stuff that comes over the burn that they put up. So, and you also have the liability exposure from people being exposed to the heavy vehicles that's going through a residential neighborhood. You've got a lot of elderly people that live around that neighborhood. They walk the streets, there's no sidewalks, and they're exposed to those trucks. Now, I believe you said $33,000 is the amount of money that the town's going to expect from those operations. I can tell you right now, the value of my property will probably go down less because of that operation. And I'm not going to do it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. So,
Could I just
Sure.
clarify one thing? Obviously, there was a problem that was identified over a year ago, and I went to the DPW director, and we addressed it, and the operator of the facility, or the contractor, I should say, was very helpful, and I just want to emphasize commercial use and the grinding has ceased. And I know that there's been an issue with the noise, and we did address the noise. The screening, which under this proposal continues, has been part and parcel to the process for how many years?
As long as the transfer station has been there, yeah.
So I do want to just make that clear. And obviously, we also addressed the time frame of the activities by making it much more restrictive. The leaves, the grass, the dirt, I mean, they need to go somewhere.
Right. So this yard waste area has always accepted yard waste from the sticker holders of the transfer station as well as from town projects. We actually just started today the field renovation at the Mashpee Middle High School, and all of the topsoil material from that project, as required by our bylaw, it has to stay in Mashpee is going to the transfer station and will be composted with the material that's already there and then screened and given out to Mashpee residents, used by the DPW. So this is an ongoing operation for several years. There was a slowdown during the pandemic when projects stopped, when we had other things going on. So unfortunately, as Mr. Smith said, that's when he purchased his property, and so I'm not sure that he realized the extent of what happened at the facility before he purchased the property.
So I have a question for you, Catherine.
And I know the or the contractor is here, his son is here, or he was here. Yeah, he's right here.
So my question is, and Mr. Smith's right in that, I felt after the facility got the lease and was up and running, it wasn't certainly what I expected from the materials that we got. So I'd like a little more clarity on, if it's not commercial vehicles that are going in and out of there, who's going in to take out what product, and how's that all going to work?
I would probably ask Wes or Pat to come up, and you can
Whoever,
ask
I'd rather have them speak for themselves than you
directly.
speak for them.
Exactly. Yes.
Hi, my name's Pat Gregory. I operate the facility in Mashpee, oversee that, and also our facility in Marston Mills. To put some clarity on it, like Catherine said, we kind of ceased operation, but as for a couple of years back during the pandemic, we then picked up because we had pretty much 2 years of leaves to catch up on. And right now, the only trucks as of our meeting month and a half ago, are our own, Gotta Do trucking. So we have 2 semis that obviously operate the garbage in and out of there. And then also our 10-wheeler that comes in and out occasionally for dirt. And other than that, we haven't had, in the last month, when we agreed to these terms, it's been pretty much just the DPW vehicles or vehicles of that nature to either get material out or come dump material.
So 3 that you own.
Yes, or a F-750 that comes and sources some dirt out of there from time to time, once in a while. Yep.
And that's going to be, it's just
Yep.
going to be 3 or 4 vehicles under your direct ownership?
Yep.
No subs?
No, sir. Not at the moment. I mean, whether that changes or not, I mean, I can't sit here and say definitively, no, that will not happen under any situation, because it may, but we're not a large trucking outfit out here.
Well, but
by any means.
it's actually fairly material to what we're talking about. So if it's 3 or 4 right now, and it might become a bunch more that may or may not be owned by you, what are we agreeing to?
If that's, we don't have to do that at all. I just, in a situation where we have to truck material out of there, then we can't withstand all that volume at once.
I think what he can speak for himself. I think what he's talking about is the volume. If the volume changes unanticipated.
Correct.
He may have to rely on some other trucks rather than his own.
In November, we had the storm debris that was overflow from the storm, and we had to
Yes.
haul that stuff out of there. And when the trucks came in, we then had to offload I believe I hired 1 triaxle just to help move grindings off-site
And where's all that stuff go?
to my yard in Marston Mills.
And then you sell it from there?
We process it more and then sell it, yes.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, so basically the additional commercial usage is no longer?
No longer.
It's
No.
back to the normal usage?
Yes, sir.
Just to clarify, that's, okay, I'm good.
That's what I wanted to
That's,
emphasize.
I'm good.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
question, what's the frequency of the vehicles? You have 3 or 4 vehicles of your own that you
Yep.
utilize. What's the frequency on daily trips in and out?
It's really all dependent upon time of year. Like this time of year, 3 to 4 times a day. I mean, the big trucks are in, that we keep the big trucks there, but the big trucks are doing work for that site, and then they're bringing mulch back. So they're going to dump the garbage and then bringing mulch back to Cape Resources and Marston Mills. So they're kind of just doing a loop. So those trucks could be in and out twice a day, because they'll do 2 trailers in a day in some cases. And then sometimes the 10-wheeler doesn't even go there this week, or I'm sorry, last week. I think he went there 2 or 3 times, once or twice. If we have an abundance of material, we'll bring some there with 1 truck, just so it doesn't go empty. But it could range from 5 times a week to at most 7 or 10. But it's really all dependent, and that's really only this time of year. So it kind of slows down after that.
You're not bringing the trucks into the little neighborhood across the street?
No, we're coming right around Asher's Path and coming right in.
Out,
Yep.
okay, all right.
And it's just leaves, not wood chips?
Just leaves, no more wood chips, nothing. We're not, we take the town's wood chips just by what we have to do. Just what's there, obviously, so. And then a lot of it was just ground up, that was existing brush that was there. Because again, we went 2.5 years without processing anything there.
Would you be amenable to changing one of the condition 1? It says right now that yard waste shall only be brought to the site by gotta-do or Cape Resource vehicles, except per number 2 below. Without prior approval by the town. So if you've got I guess what I'm looking for is.
You don't want a separate truck outside of the company to come in there?
Not without our approval, prior approval. I guess what I'm trying to get to is.
I understand.
If you've got 2 or 3 trucks now, and we're managing that, and asking the neighborhood to accept that, and you decide to expand aspects of your business such that you want to use this site and put more intense pressure on it, I'm not sure that's fair for the neighborhood to absorb without having the town have some ability to talk to you about it before you go ahead and do that.
I don't think there's a problem with saying we would be happy to do that. We're scaling down there from last year to this year, given the kickback, and just we've cleaned up a lot of things and tried to organize it. It's just not. It's an added cost to us regardless. So regardless, we're
Is your
just.
intention to seek another year after this year if this gets approved, or are you winding down as in?
No, we have to operate the grass and leaves there. So.
No, I understand that, but that's done under your existing contract with us, not
Yep.
stuff that's shipping out to your Marston's Mill facility. I guess what I'm asking is, are you looking at phasing out your?
No, I'd like to keep this agreement, but as you said, I know that the wastewater treatment plant is coming in, so I'm not sure what the future holds. So I don't want to be reliant on that site moving year to year, absolutely. But long-term, I think it'd be great to figure something out, but as you said before, I don't want to bank on that, so we're making moves to not bank on that.
John?
They could have a concern with limiting, giving us notice. If they're only providing services to the town of Mashpee now, and there's no longer the additional commercial usage, what happens if he has an issue with a vehicle? It could affect the service to the townspeople, because he needs to get a replacement truck in there to haul it out or do something, and now he's got to notify the town, and did he get an okay? And again, there's no longer, it wasn't a problem until we added the commercial usage.
Right.
We're taking the commercial usage away.
Back out.
I think adding that disclaimer, I think could put him in an awkward situation, and it could affect the services to the town.
You are and you aren't taking, you're taking the direct, obvious commercial use away, because you don't have the landscape trucks, people going in and filling up dump trucks. But stuff's still getting processed and then moved to another retail location. So they're processing at a rate that supports their retail business. And so as that retail business increases, the need to get more material out of that site so that they can sell it someplace else requires additional truck traffic at the transfer station and impacts the neighborhood.
But what's going in there is DPW and regular waste from the town. So
There's
it's
nothing else.
And perhaps waste from
Yep,
Marston's
so
Mill.
just grass and leaf waste overflow that comes in just to add to the volume in there.
And obviously, if we get hit with a tropical storm, our volume,
Obviously, I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about,
I'm just saying,
But if they have a surge, in
Yep.
a tropical storm and the whole thing, they need, if their vehicles are in use and something breaks down, they got to they have to continue to operate. So now they're going to call the town hall and wait for authority or approval. And what is that process? Like, what does that mean? Does the town manager just say, okay? I don't know.
it can be whatever you want it to be.
Well, yeah, and if he's got to make a decision on the fly to, okay, well, then you could have neighbors complaining, what's going on? Why is it smelling over there? Well, I had to wait for approval to get a truck to haul it out of here, and now it has to sit there until we get approval.
The grass, brush, and leaves smells much, but
Oh, you could be surprised.
anyway, anyone else?
No, I'm all set.
Until this appeared in the packet, my expectation was this commercial aspect of this was leaving at the end of June, so,
it is.
It is.
well, we're back to where we were.
With no commercial.
Is this the same operation that existed before the town executed the original lease for these activities? Catherine, you're shaking your head no. So it's not the same activity?
It's not the exact same, but it's not, what I'm trying to emphasize is it's not the same that the complaint was drawn to.
Fair enough.
I've been down here for 10 years, and 8 out of those 10 years, I've been there flipping windrows and screening at least twice a year, and now it's just more a day here, a day there. Before, twice a year, we would go there and screen in the fall and in the spring. And it would take longer to compost the grass and leaves. In this model, we're breaking down grass and leaves in about 3 to 4 months. So it's a win-win because the people from Mashpee get to dump. They don't have a backup. People are dumping. They're coming in. They're coming out. And they have for 2 years they didn't have any material to take. The DPW didn't have any material to take. They've already taken quite a bit. So I think the biggest complaint was the commercial traffic, and I just didn't want to do it.
That's what's been eliminated. We haven't had any complaints, to my knowledge, in the last few months. And then, in addition, I would point out that this is to service Mashpee residents.
All right, I think we've talked it to death. Is there a motion that anyone cares to make?
Yes, so motion to approve, I guess it's what?
The extension.
The extension of gotta do contracting.
I'll second that motion.
All right, motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And I'm opposed. Thank you. What else you got, Catherine?
So we'll stay with the transfer station, and before you is a recommendation for award of an annual contract for FY '23 with Gotta Do Contracting. There is the base price for the operation as well as the separate price for hauling based on destination. And the only thing I do want to point out, as you're probably not surprised, the hauling in this contract, we are adding a fuel surcharge.
And that's understandable.
Is there any difference from the cost basis we committed to when we extended last year?
So it is an increase based on the CPI over our FY '22.
Right, which is what we anticipated when we
Correct.
agreed to that last year.
Yes.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion? Motion to
Make a
approve the transfer station hauling
Approve the annual
contract?
contract for the operation of the transfer station hauling of recyclables.
I'll
Second.
second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right, you're rolling now, Kathy. Keep
Okay.
going.
I'll go to the other bid awards. So you have before you both recommendation for award of new bids for our annual contracts, as well as extension of existing contracts that have multiple years. I'm happy to go through or answer any questions. There are quite a few.
Any questions? All right, look for a motion to approve the annual contract bids for chip sealing, crack sealing, elevator inspection services, generator services, paving-related work, and street sweeping.
Second.
All in favor? Or is there a second?
Second, I'll give you the second.
You have the motion,
Yeah, I
needs a
need to make a
second.
motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's good.
And extensions?
Huh?
Or separate, the
Okay.
extensions were separate
So the
memo.
extension is just.
Motion to approve recommendation of the award for contracts for annual bids extension.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
And then one more bid, which is for the purchase of diesel and gasoline. As you know, we participate through a county, Barnstable County procurement, and it did not go so well this year. So what you have before you is a differential. It basically is a bid where we would pay a fixed delivery fee, and the supply would be whatever the Boston wholesale price is at the time of order.
Nobody's committing to a price.
No one is committing to a price.
You can't.
We will continue to watch the markets. Barnstable County procurement has said that if, the prices go back down, they will issue a new bid for the year. There is also a state contract that we are able to take advantage of. Looking at the comparison right now, we actually would get a better price through the state contract. It's similar where it is a delivery only, but they do have it's a slightly lower delivery, and they pay a discount if you pay within a certain period of time, which the town generally does.
So you're not locked in.
This is no obligation other than if we were to utilize this contract, it would be for the two vendors that are listed for gasoline and/or diesel.
Pay as you go.
Correct.
All right, so
Smart move.
are you looking for acceptance of the bid, award of the contract? Given that you've got the option to opt in and opt out, what exactly are you looking for?
So it still would be a contract, but it's basically a no obligation contract.
Okay,
So it's flexible.
okay. So motion to accept the award of annual contract for the purchase of diesel and gas?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last item is a change order number 1 for the middle high school field and track renovation. Work actually started today, so very exciting at the high school. There are 2 proposed change orders that are included in this change order, which does result in a net decrease to the contract of just over $4,000. One had to do with the location of the storage facility that was included as part of the project, and the second was had to do with protective mat that's placed over the track for people that are walking across the track.
Say no more. I see a change order to decrease the price
I
to
know.
the town.
That's
So I
the first.
That was a
motion,
motion, John?
I motion to approve and recommend approval of change order number 1 for track and field renovation at Mashpee Middle High School.
Second.
There's, all in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. All right, discussion and approval of a research project with Agricultural Resource Corporation, Natural Resources Department. Donovan, you doing this?
Yes, sir. I also have Mr. Sawyer, the president of ARC.
Come on up, Mr. Sawyer.
You did miss an item.
I did?
Yeah.
Program.
Oh, all right.
You want us to come back?
Nah,
Mary Bradford.
Mary looks comfortable back there.
The chair can change the order.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here just to inform you guys and make you guys aware and hopefully get your support for a research project that we are going to be doing with the Aquaculture Research Corporation. The Aquaculture Research Corporation is a hatchery based in Dennis. It is the primary provider of most of the quahog and oyster seed that the town uses for its propagation program. We have been working with them for the potential to increase seed production using Matthew Waters. And in that vein, this year we are proposing to attempt to put a solar-powered flupsy.
Could you get a little closer to the mic?
Oh.
Or turn it?
A flupsy is a floating upweller system, so this will be used to house baby shellfish, basically, small clams, small oysters, until they reach nursery size. This upweller would be totally independent of any land-based power, solely solar-powered, and would be located in Hamlin Pond. The area has been surveyed with ARC, the Harbor Master, Conservation Commission, to select a site that has the least visual and navigational impacts. A site has been selected, and we are looking to move forward with the project with the blessing of the Select Board. Tonight, Mr. Sawyer is also here to answer any questions from his side of the business.
Great. Mr. You want to just give everybody just a quick
Sure.
introduction to ARC and the role you play in municipal programs?
Absolutely. So ARC is a 60-year-old company located in Dennis. Primarily, we are one of, if not the largest, shellfish hatchery in New England. We hatch primarily oysters and hard-shell clams, quahogs. And we supply most of the seed to growers on Cape Cod and also in other states in New England, and supply most of the seed to the towns and the county here on the Cape that's used to seed the recreational shellfish beds and also for erosion mitigation and some water cleanup. When we do spawns in Dennis, we can keep the animals there till they're about 1 millimeter in size. And while they're there, we're feeding them algae that we grow there. Once they get to be 1 millimeter, we can't make enough algae to feed them. So they have to take the next step, which is to go and be exposed to the open ocean environment for the first time into what we call nurseries. And from the nurseries, they grow anywhere from 2 millimeters to about 25 millimeters, and that's where they're sold to growers. A flupsy is a floating nursery, and we are short of nursery space. And in talking with Donovan and Ashley, they're looking to encourage growth in Mashpee's shellfish industry, and we saw a mutual benefit here that we could try this research project where we could put the flupsy in the Hamlin Pond, make sure the waters are good for a nursery, and if it is, then we see where we go from there.
How big is the nursery, the flopsy?
The flupsy is about 20 feet by 24 feet. It looks like a floating dock. It's technically in 3 sections. One of the sections will have some solar panels on it.
So if this works and you get good growth, is the idea to do what?
I think the idea would be to expand it. We haven't taken it that far yet, but obviously, if we're going to encourage this growth in Mashpee's shellfish community, we also need nursery space. So I would see definitely in the future an expanded commercial nursery for us and for the town.
Okay. And Donovan, have you been able to get all the shellfish seed that you need to meet our production
No,
goals?
sir. So that is a growing problem in the industry as a whole. I recently attended a conference up in Maine, and it was one of the hot topics of discussion all up and down the eastern seaboard, is that seed is getting harder to source. And so part of the positive externality of having this is that from speaking with Mr. Sawyer, it seems their bottleneck in production is at the nursery phase. So if we're able to alleviate that bottleneck by putting more nursery space out there, it could potentially result in being able to source the seed both more reliably and possibly more cost effectively.
And while that seed's in the water growing, it's providing a water quality benefit to
Yes, sir.
regardless of where that seed goes.
Yes, sir, with nitrogen reuptake and other such things.
Can we also do this on the other side by Hamlin Pond? Great River?
Yes, ma'am. So the idea behind this, because there is some significant capital investment that has to go up, first was to try this as kind of a pilot project. No one has, to my knowledge, has tried nursery stage gear in Hamlin Pond, or there's several other locations that have very viable potential, but the capital costs are just kind of very high up front. So the idea was to try it out. If it goes successfully, then possibly other satellite locations or something that's a little bit more, I don't want to say brick and mortar, but more substantial in the area.
Any other questions?
Is there any kind of educational components written into the grant proposal as it's proposed?
So, sir, this would not necessarily be a grant in the fact that we are not obtaining any money. This would be a partnership where we would provide the mooring and the location for the docks, and they would provide the docks and associated shellfish. There is a stipulation that we will be able to get all of their data, whether they collect water quality data, seed data, and be able to kind of compile that with our own in-house data to hopefully get another read. So it is kind of acting as another sentinel station for water quality monitoring, but that knowledge is basically the main thing we'd be getting out of it for the first year.
Gotcha.
Any other questions from the board? No. All right, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the research project between the town and ARC Corporation?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to recuse myself. I have a professional relationship between my organization and ARC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry?
Good evening.
Kept you here because I know you can't hear enough about shellfish.
What's that?
Kept you here because I know you can't hear enough about shellfish.
That's true. I get educated about it every time I come. That's great. So what you have before you is a proposal to put staff at Great River. It was brought to my attention by the town manager that there's an enforcement issue there with folks without resident sticker, beach sticker, or transfer station beach or boat ramp sticker, taking the limited car and trailer spots as well as car spots. There are 15 or 16, depending how you like those smaller spaces, but there are 15 to 16 available for a truck with a trailer, and then the same for cars. So what's happening are folks are going down there, parking. There's been no enforcement of that per se. So it was collaboratively came up with a short-term solution. This isn't forever. We'll move forward from it, but at least in the short term, that we would put 2 staff down there and we would charge people for launching as well as parking along the entry road. One side of that entry road is posted. The other side of that road is where non-resident, non-sticker holders are supposed to be parking. So,
Basically, it's a two-tier system. You're going to have residents who would still have the same access that they've always had, except they're going to have better parking.
Right.
And then the non-residents are now going to have to pay a fee, which they should have been paying anyway, in theory. And they're going to be parked sort of in the straightaway compared to the parking lot where all of the angled parking spaces are. So.
And they'll be charged to launch their boat.
They'll be charged to launch. And then, obviously, if you don't want to pay to launch and you're not a resident or have a valid sticker, then you're not going to be able to stay there. Obviously, there's a cost associated with their staff, but with the fees, we think it's going to be offsetting, maybe a startup cost that might not be quite offsetting, but at any rate, this is a trial balloon. If this works effectively, might we be coming back to you next year for Aquay? Possibly. I know that there's some folks that would like to maybe see a little stricter enforcement over at the Baker Landing as well.
What are the dates that you want to start this?
It would be consistent with the beach, right?
The beach, sure.
To the best of our ability, dependent on tonight, if this goes through, then we have to kind of hit high gear with staffing, scheduling, the startup costs, the shed, the chairs, the tables, that sort of thing. Another concern I have is the distance from where we would put the shed and the staff, which is at the end of the road closest to the launch, not closest to Great Oak. We would have them in, and for their ability to be able to walk up and down that distance to really see who's there, did they pay, did they not pay, did they have the pass. I do concern myself with that aspect, that challenge to some of our staff who are not probably doing 10,000 steps a day. That's quite a distance for anybody to kind of monitor on a regular basis.
Is this weekends, is it weekdays, or are we talking about?
The emphasis is going to be on weekends. And one of the things that kind of triggered this is the fact that, unlike, I think, last year, maybe the year before, we are getting a good pool of candidates for seasonal.
John?
So I'll first admit, I'm not a boater, so I don't experience any of these issues, so maybe some of these questions are crazy.
You don't know what you're missing.
I'm also willing to go out on someone else's boat, but, I'm available. That being said, I still look at this, with staffing issues, every place, every company, every restaurant can't get staffing issues. Maybe we're not having staffing issues now, but, 3 weeks from now, we may not have lifeguards, we may not have anybody, because that's just the way the world is right now. So adding more staffing responsibilities when it seems to me like this is an enforcement issue. If we have to limit, I'm all for, boaters of Mashpee, if you reside in Mashpee, they should have priority in our waters. They should have priority parking. They should have, at least if I owned a boat, I would want to be able to go to a Mashpee boat ramp and put my boat in without having all these out-of-towners coming in and I have no place to put in my boat. So can you give me a reason why can we not limit parking or not allow Mashpee residents to park in a certain area, or don't allow non-residents to permit access?
It is currently posted in terms of the tickets. I can't comment on the frequency of the tickets being issued, but I think It's a little different in the sense that if we had 2 staff people there, they're going to obviously have direct communication with the person and say, you're not going to be able to launch unless you pay the fee if it's authorized by the board. The point being, and I don't want these staff members to get into an argument with somebody, if they start saying, well, I'm going to launch anyway, call the police and we'll deal with it. However, on the flip side, once people get accustomed to the new customer practice, I think, like everything else, it'll just form a habit. We're not going to be able to launch and take prime parking anymore at Great River. We're going to have to pay a launch fee if we're out of town, and if you're a resident, nothing changes other than hopefully there's more convenient parking spaces for you, which there should be.
Do other towns charge for launching?
What all the other towns are doing, I'm not sure. I know there are some.
Every
that are
town is a
doing it.
little bit different.
Yeah.
Some towns have marinas that have parking fees, and I did some research on this because we looked at potentially putting in solar kiosks.
Right.
As opposed to staff.
Don't mind that either.
Every town has some other thing going on. Some are completely free, no sticker, no anything. Others are charging fees. Others are resident only at this one, but if you're at this one, you could, yeah. So I apologize, it's not consistent at all, town to town, Cape-wide. It is not consistent.
One of the things that also prompted this is you should have received a letter from a couple just a few weeks ago that articulated some of the concerns about a resident not being able to get into that parking. And there have been other complaints as well from residents. So if you have, obviously, a transfer station sticker, a beach sticker, or if you have neither, or a tribal ID, you're all set. If you have none of those, all you need is a landing sticker if you're a resident, and you're all set.
Right, but to that point, though, I still don't understand, if people are parking illegally, why aren't we writing tickets and increase, I mean, if you drop your boat in the water illegally, basically, you're telling me that this is going on by non-residents, why aren't we just writing tickets, increasing the revenue, and just keep on writing them, and guess what? They'll stop coming. Because they just, I mean, and another thing is, what are the tickets?
Again, I haven't done an analysis of the tickets, but I dare say that some folks are probably saying, if I get issued one ticket, that's fine for the day.
Right.
Well, that's great, no, that's the
Because
question
it's not that
what is the
high
fine?
of a fine.
Well,
So
but can we not even look at if it's?
Say the fine is $50.
Well, can we make it?
It's not. I don't think it's
not.
that much.
Okay, all right.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so that's what I'm saying. If the fine is only $25 or $40 or something like that, it's probably not enough, and it's worth it for them to just say, I'll pay the fine.
Right.
Well, that's great. So can we increase the fine and start writing tickets, and then we don't have to pay I mean, we can start creating some revenue. And if people want to continue to do this, if they pay a $100 fine every time they drop their boat in illegally, and they're parking illegally, and it's affecting, as you said a few weeks ago, it's affecting taxpayers of Mashpee and the inn owners, whether they're tribe or members of Mashpee.
I think it's a combination. I think it's the enforcement aspect, but also that direct interaction, I think, is going to be more helpful. Could we take a different approach with a parking attendant versus a police officer? We might look at that option. I don't want to speak for the police chief, but I'm not so sure that enforcement down at Great River is the priority on a weekend, holiday weekend, especially when they're going from call to call.
Because then you're going to have the same thing happen at the other two ramps.
Well, yeah, but maybe can we look at increasing those fines as well?
I think there's only a maximum we can increase them by, but I can look into all of that. Like I said, this was just a trial balloon, just to get your feedback. What we're trying to do is just make it a little easier for residents to have easier access, and at the same time, just let non-residents know, if you're going to use our ramp that we have paid for, then we expect you to pay a fee. That's all.
Yeah, I don't understand why we just, I mean,
Because as of right now, a non-resident, just to make you aware, and maybe I wasn't clear on this earlier, a non-resident can launch and then park down the road and park legally if they're willing to walk a little further. Because there's a certain section of that road that is not.
It's for non-residents.
Exactly. It's not marked for
but you're saying
residents
they're
only.
not doing that.
I think some of them are,
But a
but
lot are
some
not.
of them are not.
So
And
that's
But what we
I
want to
just-
do is we want to collect from all of the non-residents who are using our ramp, our landing.
I just think that's the way we're gonna add a cost to operate 2 attendants, right? It's gonna take 2. They're gonna have to deal, they're probably gonna have to call the police anyways, because some of those people are like, I'll do whatever I wanna do. And at the same time,
But we deal with the same thing, with all due respect, we deal with the same thing down at South Cape Beach, and we generally don't have to call the police that often. I'm not saying there aren't issues, but the bottom line is, you can do whatever you want. This is just one option.
no, I get it. I just don't understand why I haven't heard anybody saying, oh, I keep getting tickets down there. You know, so if that was a complaint, then, again, that's the easy answer, in my opinion. You know, if you, on a nice day, everyone's out there dropping a boat out there. So you send a cruiser down there right away. And now we have some,
And I think if somebody has an attendant who expressly advises them, you've got to pay this, or otherwise you're going to be ticketed and towed,
Yep.
then they're going to pay.
yeah, I just think it's going to be a continued problem. And I think everyone's coming out of COVID. There's that, you know, first, everybody's got to get outside and get on a boat, and I get that. But at the same time, if there's no teeth and there's no enforcement, then, yeah, all right, maybe in this boat ramp, we're solving a problem, but maybe they're gonna go elsewhere. But again, a call comes down to enforcement, but I would be curious to say, what is the fine? If they were written a ticket, and if we're at $25, and I have no idea, but if we are at 25 and we can go up to $100 or something, make it more of a punishment so people will do the right thing. That's all I'm saying.
Mary, you're going to have 2 attendants. Is it going to be a shift, or are they going to work the full day?
No, they'd work the full day.
They work the full day. So it would just be
And I
2.
hope she can, keep up the staff throughout the summer, because
I have a staffing question. I mean, obviously, we staff the gate at Mashpee Wakeby, which is a key element to keeping some lid on the insanity that goes on over the weekends. Do you have the staff, do you have the access to the staff, or maybe it's you, right? That if we proceed with this, it won't come,
No.
we're not taking it out?
No. The idea of this whole concept was if we had the staff available. We're not going to take from another area staff for the purposes of doing a trial balloon.
Okay.
And we also had a discussion relative to what I think you're alluding to, and we're obviously going to work on getting that problem under control. We have discussed this with DNR, with Recreation, and with police, and we're going to have some environmental police, we're going to have some police officers, and there'll be a heightened awareness.
Yep. I mean, I share some of John's concerns, and that it comes down ultimately to enforcement. This is just a means of enforcement. But all the rules in the world without any enforcement don't matter.
but
I do a lot of towing of boats and parking a lot of public ramps in other towns, and you pay, you get tagged. You know, some have staff, a lot of them have moved towards kiosks. You know, and if somebody go through and they, you know, will tag you if you don't have it, you pay by mail, and if you don't pay by mail, you get surcharged. There's a number of different ways to do it, and it works pretty well. Everybody know, like, you know, you don't launch a boat in Barnstable without a town pass because you know you're gonna get nailed. And it's not just June 1st to September 1st, it's all year. You know, other towns, we launched out of Harwich yesterday. They're like, you know, have a great little facility there. And you pay. So,
One of the problems, I think, is that we don't have enough parking spaces at these landings.
Well, we do now. I think we do.
Do we have enough parking spaces? It seems to me it's very tight.
Pirates Cove is tight.
they're all tight.
I think
They're all tight.
Right. I mean, so a lot of people don't have, they can go further, but at some point you run out of grassy land where they can park. This is a tough one because we don't have an abundance of additional spaces available.
I think that's the logic of trying to preserve their access for Mashpee people.
Right.
It's the non-state ramps. So, you know,
Right.
the multiple state, town-owned saltwater ramps, John's Pond, Mashpee Wakeby are all state ramps. So it doesn't quite apply priority.
I'm talking, well, obviously, right now, tonight, I'm only talking
Great
Great
River,
River,
Aquay Bay, and
but
Baker.
we'd be looking at
Aquay,
Aquay
next.
So
and
they're all different.
Baker.
Right. But
In terms of what we can
they're
do.
all the same because of the limitation of the
Yeah.
parking available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the greatest problems. And even moorings don't benefit because they still have to drive to the landings to
think-
get to their moorings.
Exactly.
I think we should try it, give it a first-year try, I mean, to see how it's going to work, and maybe we don't get the staff to staff it. Then we'll have to look at the fines.
And I'm okay with coming back and obviously reporting the results to see, you know, whether or not it should be continuing. I want to emphasize, this is just authorizing a trial balloon, and it's only authorizing it if we can staff it. What you'd be authorizing is the two-tier system, if you were to say this in an affirmative vote.
So just in addition to this, I just would like to see, look into whatever we have a fine now.
I heard you loud and clear.
All right?
All right, is there a motion to,
Can I just clarify, just so I'm very clear, excuse me, about the launch fee, parking fee, what we're enforcing, should this go forward, what we're enforcing, and also to be very clear that the upfront costs are roughly $5,000 to get shed, chairs, tables, that sort of thing, which doesn't have a funding source at the moment. And then any revenues that would come in based on these charges is specifically to offset the staffing costs. Minimum staffing costs for us are $250 a day, and that's just gross. That doesn't include whatever town insurance, whatever the, other costs are. At a minimum, I need 10 boats at $25 each day that there's staff there in order to just get to zero. That's not recouping the upfront costs. And in the proposal or in the language we talked about.
It's really an operational issue. Bottom line, what she's saying is the money, the revenue would be offsetting her costs, so it's not going into the general fund.
get that part?
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
this idea is this is self-sustaining.
yes.
Yes.
But this is probably the only
You'll see-
thing,
You'll see how it goes. You
Right.
get,
It's a trial.
If you get 7 rainy weekends out of 15 that you're doing this, you're probably not gonna make your number. If you get a bunch of sunny weekends, people voting, you probably will. Depends
So-
how the tides flow and how often people are launching and.
Any non-sticker holder who wishes to park along that entryway is going to be charged $25.
Right.
Okay? I just want to be really clear on
However,
that.
you can-
Fee schedule
that's
at our next
operational.
meeting? To see if it's all right? Can we look at the fee schedule? To John's point, and any other fees at our next meeting?
You mean for the parking?
Applicable parking penalties.
Fines.
Fines and penalties. What are those?
Fines and penalties, absolutely,
What the fines are now, what the fines can be.
yes, yes.
Because that may help us in other
Well, some of them
locations
may
as
be
well.
bylaw said we can't do anything about it, some of them maybe are.
I know that we looked at a couple that we couldn't increase any further, but I'll take a look at it.
All right, is there a motion to authorize the trial of a two-tiered parking fee system at Great River for this summer?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is a continuation of our public hearing from March 21st, then continued to May 23rd, then continued to tonight, or the shellfish regulations. To review, I'm sure everybody remembers, it wasn't that long ago, but to review the conversation, we extended the public hearing to enable the small group the board authorized to meet with tribal representatives to see if we could come up with language that would satisfy the concerns about preserving Aboriginal rights, but actually probably go beyond just satisfying concerns, but come up with an affirmative statement that showed the town recognized the importance of Aboriginal rights to the tribe and to Mashpee as a place. So a handful of us met, myself, John, Peter Smith, the chair of the Shellfish Commission. Peter Thomas, I'm sorry. Ashley, Rodney, Wayne, and myself met with Vice Chair Hendricks and a number of members of the Natural Resources Commission at the tribe. I think we had a good, productive conversation. And we come up with the language that is before the board now. It's slightly different, Peter, than one word different than what you considered at the Shellfish Commission this afternoon. But basically, there were 3 sections where it was proposed that we add some language. The language that, that was presented to the Shellfish Commission this afternoon. I'll ask Peter if you can speak to action on your part this afternoon. Mr. Hendricks is here. Just let you speak for yourself. What's on the table for the board to consider is an amendment to the regulations that would add the following. Nothing set forth in this chapter of regulations shall be construed to waive any ancient or Aboriginal rights of the tribe as referenced in the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Mashpee and the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe to water, land, access to water, or to hunt, fish, forage, or gather for sustenance as recognized by courts of competent jurisdiction. So basically what we did here was rely on the framework of the language that exists in the intergovernmental agreement between the town and the tribe, and relied on that, added the concept of ancient to Aboriginal, added foraging as a specific activity in these regulations, which was mentioned in the IGA, and cross-referenced the definition of the tribe as the entity with whom we were talking about to the IGA. And I believe, and I'll ask both of you gentlemen to speak to this, everybody's happy. So, Mr. Hendricks, would you mind?
Mr. Chair, did you say or did you say and between ancient and Aboriginal?
Ancient and.
And.
You did say and, not or. All right.
I believe I read what was on the page.
The way it reads.
If I did not, what I meant to say was and. So, Mr. Hendricks, I don't want to speak for you at all, but your perspective on the matter would be great.
No, good evening. It was very conductive meeting, and the language is agreeable from the tribe standpoint. The chairman's here. Buddy Parkton was with us, Chinook, part of the Natural Resource Commission, and the language, it made sense. Made sense from both sides, so it was definitely a step in the right direction. And for us, from the tribe standpoint, we're hoping that other municipalities and other towns adopt this language. And as I said before, Mashpee has an opportunity to lead the way on how these other towns and municipalities recognize our Aboriginal rights. So this language satisfies the tribe standpoint, and as we discussed, we're hoping that the discussions don't stop just on that small group to get this language. There's more work to be done beside this language, but this is definitely an agreeable language to be added to these shellfish regulations. So I appreciate the time and effort that everybody took to make this happen.
Thank you, Mr. Hendricks.
I
Anybody
could
on the
just-
board have any questions? Sorry, go ahead.
I just want to add that I've had the opportunity to speak to town council relative to the change from quote-unquote defined to quote-unquote reference, and he's got no objection, so
Okay.
I recommend approval.
Great. Peter, you got it? Carlton, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We asked the Shellfish Commission to meet this afternoon. They were duly posted meeting, had the opportunity to put this language with the one word difference before your commission this afternoon. So if you tell us how that went.
Yeah, we had a special shellfish meeting this afternoon, and the Shellfish Committee voted unanimously to support this language. And I also wanted to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Hendricks and the members of the tribe that participated in the conference call last week. They answered all of our questions, our concerns. At the end of the day, we have a lot of mutual interests together. And while we come from a lot of different places, we're all working for the same thing. We're going to continue to work with the tribe and communicate with them. And I'll agree with Mr. Hendricks. He might not think I always disagree with him. I agree with him. Mashpee has a chance to show other communities what the town, the tribe, and the Natural Resources Department can do, and maybe help clean up our waters a little quicker than we anticipated. So we look forward to that continued relationship. And thank you for everyone for including us in scheduling the meetings. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Peter. Anybody have any questions for the Shellfish Commission? Chairman Whedon, you're here. Do you have anything you want to add to this? No. Great. I will say, from my perspective, this being my 9th year on the board in this iteration, so this is the most constructive, positive, collegial conversation we've had in my time on the board with tribal leadership. And I'm hopeful that it's an indication of, that we weren't just trying to do the minimum, we were actually trying to get something that was positive and left everybody feeling good about the interaction. I think we achieved that. And I want to thank the Shellfish Commission and the Natural Resources Department and Donovan for all the work that they put into this to tee it up so that we could get this done. This is still a public hearing. So does anybody from the public have any comments on the proposed reg changes? Anyone on the board? Questions, comments? I want to thank John for his help in this process too.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, is there a motion to adopt the proposed amendments to the shellfish regulations with the addition of the new language indicated as second final draft?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Donovan Anderson. Aye.
Donovan, did you have any? Sorry, I didn't see it back there.
Thank you. I would just like to say, on the basis of the shellfish regulations as a whole, sometime circa around 2018, there was a moratorium placed on future aquaculture expansion within the town until the new shellfish regulations could be passed. So I would just like, if possible, clarification from the board that that moratorium is lifted in tandem with the regulations passing.
If that moratorium is contingent upon the regs passing?
Yes, sir.
So I think that's
self-explanatory.
That's
If
self-explanatory.
it's not contingent, then I don't think you should be taking any action tonight.
Yeah.
No.
It was contingent.
Then it's self-corrected.
Thank you.
Very good. Do we take the vote, Kathy?
Yes, we do.
Yep.
Yes. Very good. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate everybody's hard work on this one. All right, our last appointment and hearing, presentation, discussion, and potential approval of a negotiated host agreement, community agreement with Tradesman Exchange LLC. Who's speaking?
Hello, good evening, Chairman Gottlieb and members of the Select Board. My name is Attorney Nicholas Gomes, and I represent Tradesman Exchange Limited Liability Company. Here with me today is the Chief Executive Officer, Jeffrey Pepe, as well as John Marcelino, an owner of the company. So today we are before you seeking approval of a negotiations for a host community agreement. I'm going to get into the slideshow and go over the details of our company, and then I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have. So our location is 800 Falmouth Road, the Summerfield Park, and our company is created for the sole purpose of delivering cannabis to consumers at their home. This is one of the newest delivery licenses, or newest license types that the Cannabis Control Commission has created. We pride ourselves in our customer service in being able to deliver a safe product to their home. Now, we are seeking two different license types. The first one is the delivery operator. The easiest way to consider the delivery operator is that it's a warehouse to consumer model, meaning we have the ability to purchase wholesale and store within our secure vault at our facility that the public does not go to, and then we make single deliveries to customers. The other license type, the marijuana courier, is based off of the retailer. This is an existing licensed retailer who has an order placed to them by their customer, and then we simply courier the product to them. So we're essentially acting as a service agency for the retailer. So Tradesman Exchange has created this business model of having the delivery operator so it can brand itself, sell to its own customers through an online portal, but also be able to diversify and assist existing retailers. Notably, the delivery operator model is limited geographically to Mashpee, the Greater Cape, and some of Plymouth and Bristol County. The marijuana courier license, on the other hand, is only geographically limited to Massachusetts. So in theory, we could have nodes across all of Massachusetts where we are conducting those deliveries for retailers. And it's contractually based with the retailer. Now, our physical location, the 800 Falmouth Road, is at the rear of the Summerfield Park Plaza. If you look at the map on the right-hand side, the dot where it says Summerfield Spa that I just messed up on is approximately the picture you see on the left-hand side. Our unit that we are seeking to utilize is the garage door that is visual in this picture here. Our intent is to have the vehicle pull into the garage, safely load or unload at the end of the day, and then go on its way. We specifically chose this location because it is in itself discreet. It is at the rear of the building. We're not going to have any customers come to our facility. The only people who are allowed are our employees, who all must be 21 years or older, as well as authorized visitors, police, fire, inspections, and then, of course, the state agency. Now, looking at the individuals who are going to be operating this company, myself, I'm the legal counsel. I'm assisting with licensing, permitting, and throughout the regulatory process, making sure the vehicles are equipped with the proper security features that are required by the state, and then continuing on through representation as needed throughout the operations of this business. Jeffrey Pepe, who's here today, has a hemp CBD retail store here in Mashpee and has had it for the last 2 years now. He has knowledge in delivery services through hemp, as well as a long-standing professional history here in Massachusetts. He's a long-standing resident. Our associate, Leona Lever, could not be here with us today. Leona has her own business of medical transportation services. We are seeking to transition her skills of managing fleets and essentially bringing it to the cannabis industry. And this is essentially the office position of monitoring in real time our fleet of vehicles that are on the road. She's going to be the one that's overseeing, making sure they are going where they need to be, there's no unauthorized stops, and most importantly, the connection between our vehicles and our home base is constant. If at any time one of the vehicles goes dark, meaning we lose a connection, although we have multiple systems to have communications available, not just our phone, we're not just relying just on our cell phones, for example, that vehicle would have to come back if it's not able to be picked up and we know where they are. GPS monitoring, tracking, audio, visual, everything. And of course, last but not least is Chef John Marcelino, who's the familiar face most likely for you, as he's been a chef in the area for over 30 years, currently is the operator of the Station Grill over in Falmouth, and he is a proud member of the Wampanoag tribe. John's smile and overall enthusiasm is a welcome addition to Tradesman Exchange. We envision working with John as customer relations, as I mentioned with that courier model, working on obtaining contracts across all Massachusetts, and of course, leaning on his strength here in the local Mashpee community. Now, the basis of our business being transient, vehicles are one of our largest investments. Here, these vehicles, by design, are geared so that no one knows what we're doing. We do not want to be advertising on these vehicles. It's not allowed. We want to discreetly go, and we want to offer that as a service to our customers. They may not want their neighbors knowing what we are delivering to their house. We're going to look like any other delivery service without the common markings that you see. Our vehicles are always going to be randomized. There's not going to be a circuit that they're going. Of course, these orders are going to be all over. It is our task of logistically making these deliveries on a timely basis. Now, some of the limitations offers protection for our drivers as well as our customers. For example, the vehicles themselves are only allowed to have $10,000 worth of product value. That $10,000 and the way that it is set up is the vehicles are by design loading up for the day. They're loading up similar to a place that picks up your laundry, cleans it, and then makes the deliveries. This is not so much of the pizza delivery and then we're coming to your door in 15 minutes. There is requirements for how the actual products, which are prepackaged materials, go through the system that Massachusetts has of where it is going and which licensed company is holding it before it gets to the end user at their home. So here we have, we're keeping track of all the products that are coming into our warehouse. We're safely loading them from our vault at the warehouse into these vehicles, small amounts of cannabis, generally speaking, compared to large wholesale transfers. And then we're safely on the road to the customer's house. Now, with that limitation of 10,000, it gets rid of the back and forth traffic issue or concern which some municipalities have. Rather, we envision our company as seamlessly fitting into the existing traffic patterns as quietly as possible so that we are not subject to theft or diversion or having errors with our delivery service. Now, with our vehicles, we are trying to start small and manageable. And we are a small company. We're not a large multi-state operator. We envision one vehicle and quickly scaling up to 5. Now, our location, and this is more towards the delivery operator license, is limited to the 6 or so Cape Cod towns that we can actually deliver to. So this is going to be a logistical challenge for our company, but we are interested in taking that challenge on, and we believe we have the team to get it done. Looking at some further security features, this is an example of, and just give me one moment so I can, this is an example of what the security feature, the actual vaults take place. We're looking at two different models here. The one on the left where the cursor is the rear trunk, and then also on the interior, which would be accessible by the employee inside the car. So we're looking at all options at this time. The vehicles, of course, will be tinted at the state level to not draw attention to our employees. They will have body cameras on, and they will not be in drab that would draw attention to them as much as possible. Think of undercover delivery drivers is the best way to think of it. Our security is not just dependent on our employees and the owners of the company. Here, the state requires audit systems to occur in which we are challenging ourselves and making sure our security systems are up to date, that there are not issues. And if we do see any inconsistencies or errors, we of course need to change them right away. Now, the system that we have in place is required to monitor all activity in which marijuana is being handled. So this is from the wholesale drop-off to the loading of the vault, unloading of the vault to the vehicle, and then when the vehicle, and then as it is being retrieved from the vehicle at the customer's home, and directly to the delivery and the identification to the person and the drop-off. The inside of our building and facility will have the same features. Cameras on the vault area, handling areas, and our doors are very limited in this circumstance, but it does have the added features of key card access, so we know which employee is inside the building, where they are. This may be common knowledge, and I apologize, but it's important. Here, this is a licensed, regulated activity that we are doing. The product that is being sold is tested according to Massachusetts law. It is safe for consumption. And again, back to that product tracing system, metric, we are able to go through our system and identify any type of product that may have had issues with the testing that was delivered, so it can be pulled off of our shelves and not delivered. All of the product is stored, as I mentioned several times, inside the vaults. This is just to make sure that the product is not subject to diversion, theft, and anyone getting their hands on it who should not. And if there are any issues with our system, we are required by law to do immediate reporting. Within 24 hours, we need to let the police know, as well as the regulatory agency, the Cannabis Control Commission. What is the potential here is diversion, our employees diverting product when they shouldn't. Of course, that starts with hiring practices. Our intent is to hire as local as possible here in Mashpee. This is going to be the focus of our entity. I know I mentioned the nodes on the courier, but that is truly ancillary to our main focus here in Mashpee. Looking at the timeline of our company, we had a community outreach meeting on May 26. It was conducted virtually, and it was not well attended. I will admit that. But my experience with these community outreach meetings is the level of, in all of the abutters, 300 feet were provided notice, it's just not pulling in the same amount of audience and attention that it was in 2019, 2018. And a lot of the concerns that were in existence just simply have been refuted, and it's just become more acceptable now that the stigma has gone down. We are here today before you for the host community agreement negotiations. We expect we would be immediately responding to any negotiations and fast-tracking that as soon as possible. As you know, the host community agreement is the document that is necessary to continue on in the licensing process at the Cannabis Control Commission. We are, I should have mentioned this already, an economic empowerment and social equity certified company. What that means is Jeffrey Pepe was already reviewed and authorized for expedited review. So when this license application does get to the Control Commission, it would get right to the front of the line, and hopefully, as you can see with our timeline, I did it quite aggressively, that we hope to get done by the end of the year and be able to commence operations. I say that we have the ability to do so because this project is not large scale. Delivery, in its very nature, is more low impact compared to some of the other license types. We do not have the odor control concerns of a cultivation and manufacturing facility. There's none of that going on, no extractions. The retail, of course, has the added burden of the property, brick and mortar, and customers coming to us. We're not going to do that. We're going to safely service them at their home. As the pandemic has taught us, among many things, is that the need for delivery and convenience is increasing by the day. By the amount of boxes that get shipped to my house on a weekly basis, I can see that delivery is not going to stop, and that it is the future.
We're likely to have some questions, so maybe we could wrap it up.
Yep,
So
and then my last slide is that we are focused on being community partners here in Mashpee. We have a responsible team behind us. We are seeking to grant the allowable maximum community impact fee, the 3%, and we have the positive impact plan, diversity plan. This goes towards our internal policies and making sure we are giving back to the communities, and the communities that we are doing business in, as well as communities identified by the state. But our partnership goes beyond that, the minimum requirements of the state law, and we're looking to do more locally here in Mashpee as much as possible. So with that, I'd be glad to open it up for questions.
Anybody on the board have any questions?
I got a bunch.
Go.
I'll go first. All right. So you mentioned about there's 6 towns that are
Yes.
right now legal to deliver?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, my understanding is, and our target is going to be Provincetown, Wellfleet, East Hampton, Sandwich, Brewster, Truro, and then directly over Wareham, Marion, Plymouth.
Okay. And those other towns, they presently don't allow delivery? Is that what it is?
Yes. Yep. I believe 9 communities here in the Cape did an outright ban.
Okay. So where would the cannabis be stored?
The cannabis would be stored at the 800 Falmouth Road location, inside the rear of the building, inside of a garage. The way that the garage would look is the area for the vehicle to pull in, garage closes behind it, and then the individuals who are about to load the vehicle would get out, go through a secure door into the vault room, grab the product from the vault, and bring it into the garage room for loading.
Okay. So, and we're not doing any final approval or anything like that now, today, correct?
The request is to authorize creation of a post agreement.
Post
agreement.
Typically,
All
in
right,
the past, we've authorized the town manager to negotiate something and come back to us.
All right, so, and the reason why I'm thinking is because what agreements, we had with Triple M, to be fair, is we didn't allow them to store any product on site, correct? And that was to be shipped back and forth from Plymouth? Unless I
think that's wrong.
Unless I misunderstood? In our Triple M agreement, I thought they were supposed to, because we were concerned about storage at some point.
I think large-scale storage, they don't do.
It was some level.
Retail level,
It was how much was to be stored on site in Mashpee? Because they were talking about transportation.
I know there was a Plymouth component, but I don't specifically recall on the storage.
I don't know the exact particulars, but I'm just curious about how this affects what we didn't allow Triple M to do.
Yep.
So I don't want to be, And then the other question was, how does this affect Triple M? And if I remember in those conversations, that wasn't what they wanted to do at the time, but we wouldn't allow them at the time. Anyways, it would, and I agree with your comment about it's becoming a little bit more acceptable. It's not a, ooh, cannabis, like, you know, back in 2018, it was crazy talk at that time, I think, a little bit. I probably have a bunch more. A lot of it's about how does it affect the existing Triple M contract and what we allowed them, and now if we say yes to this, and also does this affect, I thought we were only allowed one facility.
One retail facility.
One retail.
This does not count.
Yeah, the transportation.
This doesn't count as a delivery.
They wordsmithed it out, it's not a retail facility.
Yeah,
That is correct.
That's the amazing part.
Wordsmithing.
Wow. So this doesn't affect our liquor license and?
Nope.
No.
Wow.
If I may, through the
Briefly,
chair.
please. Go ahead.
Mr. Cotton, just in regards to the volume, we are, our business policy is to not buy large quantities of wholesale that we are a target of a multi-million-dollar cannabis cachet. We are more of a logistical company of working within our means of wholesale and trying to get the product out the door as soon as possible. And every week we're going to be moving so that it's not so much of a target as one may think of having that concern.
Are your growers, are they local? Are they?
Across all of Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yep. And realistically, as we are going to try to work with Triple M, that would be more so on the, I imagine, on the courier model, where small independent cultivators who don't have a retail outlet are going to want to sell to us wholesale more likely than someone who's vertically integrated. So we're going to be outsourcing cultivators across all Massachusetts so we can have a wide variety of products.
And the revenue to the town that you make deliveries outside of Mashpee
all gross sales come back to.
Comes back to Mashpee.
Yep.
And with your delivery license, you have to have a sales tax, you'd be charging sales tax.
Yes, yep.
Because it's a retail.
Tom, any
But it's
questions?
not retail.
No.
Yeah.
I'm good, I understand, I get it.
Okay. David?
So you're not clear on your specific items that you're going to deliver. It could be a wide range of products at the end of the day because you're purchasing and reselling.
Yes, so we are purchasing all types of cannabis and cannabis products. So the basic is the flower and the pre-rolls that most people associate with, but also manufactured goods and the extracts. We are buying them wholesale, but prepackaged. So that means we are buying grams, 3.5, and ounces size of flour. We're not buying pounds and breaking it down. Likewise, the manufactured goods, it's all set up, ready to go. We just take the plastic off, and then we're able to sell a single box. The best way to try to describe it.
And as far as controlling, minors and things of that nature, what are some of your protective measures to prevent?
So I would say the starting point for the safety is identification of the consumer who we are actually selling to. They need to be identified before we can have the transaction. And then once we have the order, we go out, we double identify check before we make the actual handoff and delivery.
Is the item paid for before you leave for the delivery?
Our intent is to try to have cashless transactions and promote cashless transactions, but there is still the possibility that we will accept cash and it would occur at the consumer's home. And
How are you going to do cashless since it's illegal on a federal level for credit cards?
So what
are you going to use?
The way that it's essentially a traveling ATM debit machine. is how they're doing it.
Right.
And there's third-party companies which are approved, and that's what we intend on using as well.
So they're paying on site.
Yes, that is true.
David, you got any more questions?
No more questions.
I have a bunch of questions, but frankly, I give up. I think the system is just, puts us in a ridiculous, untenable position. And so, I don't want to pretend like we actually can act on any of the answers you give us. So I'm done. I don't care. Is there any other discussion?
No.
Is there a motion to authorize the town manager to negotiate a host agreement with the company and bring it back for authorization, or not? Tom, make that motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did it end up being? Because there was a lot of,
It's
Make the town manager-
no opposition.
thank you.
Yeah, I think it's
But
a
no-
5-0
no
vote
warm
to
embrace.
authorize negotiations to bring something back to
Yep.
the board.
In place.
Thank you very much for your time
Yep.
today and the vote, and I'll be in touch with you, Mr. Collins. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right.
Good to see you there, Chef John.
All right, in a mere hour and 45 minutes, we've disposed of our appointments and hearings. Mr. Cahalan would be very disappointed in us.
I know.
Communication and correspondence. In your packet is a letter from the Mashpee-Wakeby Lake Committee, generally promoting and encouraging the board to adopt a sewer program for the lake and for lakes in general, for water quality purposes. There are a few other letters that are in your box up in the office that came in. One from Mr. Falone, Ms. Kilpatrick, and one or two others that I don't recall at the moment. So those are now matter of public record. They're available for the board at your convenience. And I would also draw your attention to a letter from the DEP commissioner that's in your box, outlining a series of regulatory changes and financing initiatives related to promoting alternative septic systems and nitrogen-reducing activities around Title V. Some really interesting and good news. It fits pretty well, in fact, goes beyond some of the things that we've been talking about with the Board of Health and the Sewer Commission. So we can talk about it later if anybody wants, but there's pretty good information in your packet on that. I would encourage people to take a look at it. No old business. So for new business, we have.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
just as far as the other additional letters that are not necessarily in our packet, I'm assuming those will be added to the record, correct?
They're a matter of public record.
But they'll be, because they're in our folder, but they'll be scanned in and back on file, correct? As a public record.
They're not part of this agenda package.
Right, but they will be
They're
scanned in.
public record.
They're public
Because they've been
record. If
distributed.
anybody
to the
wants
board.
them, they can get them.
Okay.
All right, we have, as the board knows, we received a letter on May 10th from the American Civil Liberties Union, commenting specifically on some occurrences at our April 11th meeting. There's a description of the letter, board has the letter, and the issue before us this evening is A, do we choose to respond to that letter, and if so, how do we respond? There's two drafts for the board's consideration. One, I believe, was prepared collaboratively by the town manager and town council. That's draft number one. Draft number two is a variant of that letter that reflects some changes that I've suggested to the response. And, the issue before us is, do we want to authorize the town manager to respond on our behalf? And if so, which response? And I'll have an open discussion, Mr. Cotton.
All right. In the off chance that I may be conflict of interest, because this pertains to something I said under public comment, never addressing a person, and not to go into this whole thing, it still makes my blood boil. So, I don't understand how the board or the town is responsible for even responding to the ACLU. So I will not take a position on the response anyways, because that would be, I would assume that would absolutely be a conflict of interest in some way. But I do want to state that I think if we take any position or any response to the ACLU for someone, anyone that speaks under public comment of their personal opinion, we will put ourselves and set a precedent that we are now responsible to respond to anybody that speaks under public comment. So that being said, I hope I was clear. I could have wrote down my response. I went to write down my response for the past 4 weeks, and I ripped it up every single time. You know, so I think that's pretty clear. I think we're opening up, if you will, Pandora's box to respond to something that was said under public comment as a citizen, was very clear. And in fact, let me add, the ACLU came to the defense of someone that prevented that citizen, me, speaking under public comment and not allowing freedom of speech. So that person disrupted my freedom of speech. So if anything, I believe the ACLU should have been served to somebody else. So, and with that, I will not speak. I respectfully will decline from speaking any longer about the topic until we go to the next topic item. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have to agree with John.
I do too. I think
I don't feel that we have to respond.
Right.
I think it's a closed.
You declared yourself as you're not a comment, right? Public comment.
That's right.
You're not you weren't standing up and speaking as a selectman. It was public comment.
And I think he's right. If we do respond, then anyone who stands up for public comment, we're responsible.
David?
I get it. You know, these kinds of things are unfortunate to have this kind of back and forth. You know, I wish things could be resolved more amicably without bringing in outside entities. You know, I would prefer that we take no position at all.
Exactly. Thank you, Dave.
Mr. Collins?
As you know, I have the utmost respect for every single member that sits here. And I respect what was just said. With all of that, I think we should respond in some way only because it's addressed to us. It was addressed to me. It was addressed to the board. I'm not saying it's got to be my response. I'm not suggesting, with all due respect, Mr. Chair, it's got to be your response. I think there should be a response.
We can say we received the letter,
If
and that's it.
you authorize me to say, we've received your letter and we will have no further comment, then that's what can be written. But I do believe that somebody who sends a letter to us or to the board deserves a response. That's just my opinion. You may disagree with that, and if you say do not respond, then I'm not going to respond.
I would argue that we should respond, and the reason being that I think that there were assertions made in the letter that, from where I sit, did not reflect the actual occurrences at the meeting. And left unrefuted and unclarified and unresponded to, the false nature of the charge sticks. And by not responding to it and clarifying the record, which the version I authored in comparison to the manager's one went a little bit further, I think it's fair to say, in asserting the order of events and the basis for the actions that were taken that evening by the board. They do a little bit more thorough job of asserting our perspective on what transpired, while at the same time reaffirming our collective belief, which I believe everyone on this board has, and which our public policy, participation policy reflects, that we do recognize people's civil liberties, rights of expression, rights of free practice of religion, and that the assertion to the contrary, that we are somehow dismissive of that or disrespectful of that, is not reflective of the town's practices. And I think that we're remiss by not pointing that out, because I think silence is a concession to a reality or a purported reality that did not reflect, from my eyes and my ears, what transpired that night. So I think I understand the view that, we shouldn't respond because it creates an appearance of responsibility for public comments. Mr. Cotton's comments were his own. He's embraced that. That was what he was doing from the get-go. We've made policy changes, which the letter draft points out, to clarify in the future that all public comment will be done from the lectern, regardless of who it is. That applies to all of us. So I think we actually have an affirmative story to tell, and that we're remiss in not saying it. So my preference would be to send draft 2. But, so.
So in other words, just let the ACLU know exactly what has transpired, not just on hearsay at this point.
I just think that there are two perspectives on what occurred. There's a perspective that's alleged in the letter, and there's actually what the tape of the meeting actually reflects. And I think that reliance on that objective evidence of what happened is our best affirmative defense for our respect for those things. That's my view. So, but I respect the view of others. That's what this is all about. So, just to kick things off, I'll make a motion, we send draft 2. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor of sending draft 2, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, and you're abstaining. Motion fails. Is there a motion to do anything else?
Motion to send draft 1.
Is there a second to that? All right, I don't like draft 1.
Too warm and fuzzy for you?
Yeah, it kind of was.
I think it concedes more ground than the situation warrants.
I'm only kidding.
So, is there lack of a second? All right, that motion fails for lack of a second. Make a motion that we authorize the town manager to send a letter of acknowledgement with an attachment of our public participation policy, and have that suffice.
I'll second that.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
And you're abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay.
All right,
Authorized receipt and attachment of the policy.
correct. All right. Discussion of appointments to Sewer Commission. We have on your agenda applications of Ernie Virgilio for member at large, Mr. Smith for Precinct 2, and we received one that's been put in your, I believe, shared in your mailbox from Ann Malone seeking reappointment to the committee. It has been our practice in the past to refer candidates to Sewer Commission to interview with the Sewer Commission. And with a assent of the board, I'd like to suggest that that be what happens, and then we get a recommendation from the Sewer Commission, take it up at our next meeting following their discussion.
Can I just?
You may.
Point one thing out, Mr. Chair. The Sewer Commission generally consists, as you all know, of 7. It's now down to 3, and they have a critical vote on Thursday at a meeting. So I know that there were 2 candidates who were in the office by the deadline, and we had one over the weekend. We had another one today. So 2 came in beyond the deadline, 2 came in before the deadline.
Oh, so we're getting some action.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest, I'm as aware as you are of the urgency with which the commission has
I'm
matters.
just pointing it out.
Matters before them, but under the state law of necessity, they are able to function as a committee with a quorum of 3, not the full 7, and they were able to execute orders of taking last week with the membership of 3.
Absolutely, and I'm not disputing that they can legitimately meet. I'm just saying, with some things that I'm going to be bringing in before them on Thursday at 2 o'clock, is that right?
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that you didn't want 5 instead of 3,
When is your meeting?
Thursday.
Not my meeting, it's the commission's meeting on Thursday. Anyway, my recommendation to the board would be we follow the process we followed in the past, which is to ask the commission to interview and give us recommendations or thoughts, but it's up to the board whether you want to act on these tonight.
If that has been the standard process?
That has been the last while that I can remember.
We do generally send it back to the commission, to the committee, or to the board. However, we have deviated from it when they're short.
I'd appreciate the commission's opinion myself.
I'm sorry?
I appreciate the commission's opinion. I would.
I would, if
Okay,
if that's
get a-
standard practice and it's,
In a motion to refer these candidacies and the others that have been received, I'm not even sure the name of the one that came in today.
Yes,
Do them all at once?
there's one that came in today, this morning or this afternoon?
This morning.
This morning. There's one that came in over the weekend, and then we had 2 that were obviously on your agenda for tonight.
Right, and it's not, unlike other commissions in town, it's set up by representation by precinct and then at large, so I don't know how the whole thing lays out in terms of where people fit and what terms, whether there's match or not a match. So I think we ought to ask the commission to give us some recommendations.
So just to be clear, because I know that we've posted, we've advertised, does the board want me to bring the 4 that we now have
Yes, I would.
to the commission on Thursday, which I'd be more than happy to do? What happens if we receive one tomorrow, or Tuesday, or Wednesday?
I would do it all.
So will you
them
want
all.
those added no matter who they are?
Yes, no matter who they are.
I would say is,
best candidate.
yeah, the matter of
so.
function
Yes.
is,
I think,
as
yes.
they
That's for the town.
come to you, first stop should be the commission for an interview at their next available meeting, and then a recommendation.
So up until 2 o'clock or 1
Wednesday.
o'clock Thursday, whoever gets it in here,
Yeah.
we're bringing it to the
For
commission.
them to the commission
Exactly.
for an interview.
Yes, to the best candidates,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And for the commission to
Okay.
interview them.
Okay,
That doesn't have to happen Thursday at 2.
I'm sorry?
They don't have to interview them Thursday at 2. They need to be notified of who their candidates are.
No, I'm just bringing the candidates to
Yeah.
them.
Right,
Yeah. Is that agreeable?
that's agreeable.
Yes.
Okay.
Fine with that.
I
Thank
think
you.
that's great,
But we're cutting it off Thursday.
right.
For this, yeah.
Hopefully,
For
we
the-
can
for
fill
the
those
interviews.
For the
candidates.
interviews, yes.
Hopefully, we can fill all the spots.
Well, I just like a little structure to the process. Because, if somebody comes in Friday, Do we add them?
You know, then we'll bring it up next time.
If you're missing a precinct.
If I'm missing a precinct, which I might be.
Yes.
There you go, Dave.
Yeah, you're right, you know.
Okay. All right, next is the reappointments list. This is our annual list of all the reappointments. I guess what I'd ask, given the hour and the fact this is the first time we're seeing this, if anybody has any concerns, questions with any of the proposed reappointments, could you let Rodney or Wayne know by Friday of this week, so that we can ask people to either come to the meeting or provide the answer to your question, and then we'll take this up following week, following meeting. Is that fair?
Sounds good.
There's a lot here.
And I have a question on one thing, on reappointments. How many boards can people sit on?
That's a good question. We're getting clarity from town council because there is a provision that might be violated.
Okay, all right. Because that was a question that was brought up to me today.
We've had the same question. The only thing that I would add to that, without putting, where's Lynn? I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but
She's there.
Now the most overused analogy in town.
Wow.
Thanks,
You're
Lynn.
famous.
But in all seriousness, the problem is if a person can't serve on the same committee or excuse me, a second committee or commission, we may want to take a look at our provision
And maybe change.
for the charter review, because if we're not getting enough volunteers to sit on these, and we've got one that will sit on two actively and participate, I would think that the town would want to go with the person that wants to sit on two
Exactly.
rather than having it vacant.
I agree.
But we are looking at that, and as I understand it, based on the preliminary review from town council, we do have some problems.
Can we try and get that resolved before the next meeting?
That'd be good.
Okay, great. All right, next up is the list of liaison assignments. I didn't hear any complaints about any from anybody or desire to change.
I'm good.
You wouldn't have listened anyways.
I know.
I always listen to you, John. So anyway, so this is the list. It's one of the few things I actually get to do.
I haven't even looked at it.
Okay. Anyway, it's in effect until and unless somebody asks for a swap. So if you want to change, let me know. You can always take more on. Last item on the new business agenda was an update on the clear cutting of lots 64, 58, 54 Algonquin Ave. Mr. Collins.
Yes, Mr. Chair. On behalf of the town, we have sent out certified mail to 1, 2, 3, 4 property owners, some of whom have the same name, all certified with a notice relative to the violation and stop work order, Town of Mashpee erosion control bylaw, Chapter 84-2. And there is specific articulated facts that are contained in the letter. And
Can you just explain why someone can't just clear cut their own lot?
because of the bylaw.
The bylaw states?
Essentially, it was brought to our attention. The building commissioner was involved. We went out with staff. I think the code compliance inspector
Code compliance first.
went out first and then confirmed that there was an issue. And it was followed up by the DPW director and the building commissioner and fire. I also had reached out to conservation, but the assistant agent has resigned and the conservation agent is on vacation. So we're going to follow up there as well. But we felt, based on the review, that there was a violation, hence we issued the stop order. There is an appeal process. the homeowner, or I should say the property owner, can certainly object to the stop work order.
Is the
But
landowner allowed to continue the illegal activity pending appeal?
No. And part of that process, as I publicly stated, is not to just continue to cut down trees. That's not part of the appeal. Obviously, we feel that there is some merit to the violation. He's entitled to, or they are entitled to due process and to have their aspects heard. It's now.
Has the activity stopped?
It did. We did specifically state that penalty for the first violation of the bylaw shall be $100, for the second, $200, and for the third and subsequent violations, $300 each day that a violation occurs or continues on each respective lot, subject to the bylaw shall constitute a separate offense.
So they cleared the whole lot?
No, well, not the whole lot, but we do feel that there was a violation of the bylaw. There's reasonable grounds to believe that based on.
For erosion.
Yes, based on the observations made. So,
To answer, Carol, to answer your question, why?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's for
think
people to
about a
understand.
typical building site.
Right.
You know, you clear the trees, you lose the ability to hold the ground. Think of, most construction sites have some sediment control barriers to prevent the soil from washing into a nearby wetland, a waterway, flooding someone else's property, inundating them with sediment. The whole point is not that you can't cut your property, it's that you have to have an approved sediment control bylaw so you don't impact natural resources or your abutters. The individuals involved here have no such plan approved and did no erosion control.
So is there fines and penalties that we can impose for not having a SWIFT? The stormwater controls in place, and is there a way to impose penalties or fines, based on the tree count?
Yes. I believe that council is on it, but the assistant manager got some additional info.
What has also happened is they've cleared the commercial lots of 2 acres of more. And so that can result in a DRI to the Cape Cod Commission. I was speaking to Evan today, and he had said that the planning board was planning on taking it up on Wednesday, I think.
Wednesday at 9:45.
And then they would refer to DRI to the Cape Cod Commission because it has to be referred by a town agency.
I received calls this morning that
they are still clearing the retail.
They are shocked.
Oh, yeah, it is shocking. But they are clearing the the single units, single lots. They are able to do that, but this commercial lot is similar to what happened at the Harwich block down here, when they cleared that.
Where they had did over, and then they had to do a remediation.
Yes. Yeah.
Pursuant to the commission,
which
they have not done.
Well, they're supposed to do a remediation, which gave us.
4 acres.
Yeah.
And they haven't done it.
They haven't done it, as far as I know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right, again, this goes back, oddly enough, to your parking consideration. No enforcement, why have rules?
And they're served with, is a $100 fine?
No, it's $100 for each offense, first offense. Every day, it's an
Every day.
additional fine on each lot. So it's 300, it'll be it's probably 300 now. And each lot will be assessed 300 going forward until there's some remedy.
Like every day?
Yeah.
Every day.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to see the number of trees factored in.
We are.
You can't replace those trees.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I mean, you can plant more, but those are big trees.
No.
No, I get it.
And you're going to get a petition saying, I want to turn this into a solar farm because there ain't any trees there.
Right. Yeah.
So we're not
And I
cutting any
checked the
trees. We're not
wetlands.
cutting any trees down. Now we can make a solar farm because all the trees are gone. Isn't that ironic? Pretty
And I
cute.
would check the wetlands for silt or runoff, just
We
to
are.
monitor.
Yeah, no, we are going to do
If
that.
that's additionally impacted.
Anyway, can we just keep this on the agenda as a repeat item until it's resolved and the site's remediated in some form?
I mean, the issue primarily right now is, you know, the lack of any discussion subsequent to the stop work order.
Fair to say the characterizations of it being okay with you in the town were not accurate?
They were not.
Would you call that a misrepresentation of your position? Okay. All right. Having no additional topics because it's late. Liaison reports.
None at this time.
I'll share that the Sewer Commission executed the order of takings necessary for the completion of the financing application to DEP in the 2 condominium areas. So that's an important milestone. That was done last Thursday. And work is being done to get additional contractual approvals at the Sewer Commission meeting on Thursday that will enable the package to be complete and the town to go out to bid inside the timeline provided by the state to preserve our financing this month. So things are moving.
I can bring you up to speed on what's happening at the county level, which is a blast. We're just,
If you can explain that to me,
I cannot.
You'll be the first person.
All I can tell you is bottom line is they want more money. The county commissioners want more money, and the delegates are just saying, let's hold on, let's see where we're at, why don't you take what we're giving you, and then come back and let's have another discussion if you think we need more money. And the one thing that got me was that when we had they wanted money set aside for the accounting. They want to have more in-house accounting because of the ARPA funds, and they want to have the management of it. And my thought was, to be honest with you, that the town should be responsible for the accounting, not the county government. But, and they wanted $400,000. I was afraid that the deal was going to collapse, so I said, I'll go with it. I'll give you the 400. And it was, I thought it was in good faith, and in all honesty, I don't think it was needed. I think it would have been smarter if each of the towns, 15 towns, provided their own accounting system. But it's a stalemate, and I wish they would just come back to the commission, the delegates, and just say, yeah, why don't we just start, we'll go with what we have, we'll come back to the table and see about additional funding. And I think that's all the delegates are looking for. Let's get the dollars out there to the communities that need the money.
Amazing.
Okay, town manager, you want?
Just as far as the school, just heartfelt congratulations to the class of 22. Graduation was Saturday, and unfortunately I was unable to attend, but it's a pretty cool thing, another graduation class, and they're off to their colleges and about, so congratulations.
Great. Town manager updates.
Yes, sticker sales open today. The hours are 9 to 4.
Buy online, avoid the lines.
I was going to say, stickers are also available for purchase online. Town offices will be closed on Monday, June 20th for Juneteenth. And the COVID cases, I did not get the number today. Also, Race Amity Day, June 12th, and I will be there speaking.
As well you and I believe.
Good.
All right. Public comment. Mrs. Sprout. I'll remind everybody we've got the 3-minute timer on the
I'll be brief.
on the clock. And besides, if you don't like the timer, the public pressure will.
Yeah. Phyllis Sprout, 91 Quiniquisette Avenue. Well, I came here to speak about the Pledge of Allegiance issue because I'm a strong supporter of freedom of speech and freedom of religion. Those are constitutionally protected. And the Pledge of Allegiance has evolved over time, become a beloved gesture, a ceremonial, and it doesn't have the same protections, although it certainly is more visible than those constitutional protections. So I encourage and persuade and really appreciate people who stand and pledge allegiance. I mean, I go around in a Betsy Ross costume and hand out pocket constitutions. I mean, I've got signs in my house that say Happy Flag Day. They'll be coming out soon. So yeah, I'm happy to see the resolution of how public comment will be made by everybody from the microphone so that you're not speaking as yourself from a board. I've served on a board, so I kind of know what that's all about. When I walked in here, I was kind of surprised to see this never-ending advertisement for Tradesman Exchange, LLC. They came before you for a license, and for the last almost 2.5 hours, I've been looking at their advertisement. Is that new, or is that a normal procedure that you would have that constant? Because somebody else came up with wanting a license, and they didn't get their picture on the big screen. So I just wondered, is that something that is normal?
We can shut it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can shut it down.
Just, as a procedure, I'd like to see the new Mashpee seal up there if you're going to put something up.
Actually, the reason why the screen is down is because the old seal we've taken down, and we're getting the new seal, which will be unveiled by the select board at a future date.
Very good.
Thank you.
Well, the other thing was somebody else wanted to make a comment, but because now public comment is at the end, they had to leave. So this is a no-win situation. I mean, if you have it early, if you have it late, but just to let you know that in some cases, having this public comment at the end is going to be a problem for some people in the town. All right, thank you.
Thank you. I assume you're talking about Mr. Murphy, because he's next on the list and he's left. Charlie? Okay. All right. I think some people from the trade group. Mary Wagon.
Hi, Mary Wagon. I'm here as the chair of the planning board tonight, and the planning board is having a meeting this Wednesday morning at 9:45 a.m. to get ready for our LCP workshop this Saturday, but we did add the clearing of those lots to that agenda just to, I didn't know if it was time sensitive, so I took that opportunity. I don't know if we're going to act this Wednesday morning or not. But mainly I'm here because this Saturday, we're having another LCP workshop. The date is June 11th. It's 10 a.m. at the library. If people can't attend, here's a packet of information and worksheets from our last 2 workshops you can fill out and submit to the planning department. These are online, but I do have some paper copies for people here tonight. So again, the Mashpee Local Comprehensive Plan is being updated. We have some workshops. One is this Saturday, June 11th at 10 o'clock at the library. The next one is July 23rd at 10 o'clock, again at the library. We'll also have an informational table at Amity Day, which is this Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And last, Lynn Barbie.
Lynn Barbie, 73 Surf Drive. I feel like I'm here as a surrogate for Marie Stevenson. I wanted to make sure that all of you have on your calendar to come to Amity Day, which is Sunday. Saturday is the LCP. And Amity Day is Sunday from noon to 4 across the street. The last time we had it, it was really wonderful, and we have even more things going on, so I hope you all can come. And the other thing, I just wanted to make sure that all of you go to the library and see that amazing exhibit that students have made, photographs of immigrant community people and family members. It's if you come Saturday to the LCP, you will see it, but please do go and see it. It's really quite an amazing exhibit, and I think our students, deserve a lot of credit for it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's our regular business for this evening. I look for a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
You want to just, you mind reading the motion prepared by council?
I move the board convene in executive session pursuant of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to litigation in the matter of litigation conservation law foundation, with the chair declaring that such discussion in an open meeting may have detrimental effects on litigation position of the board. The Board of Selectmen will not reconvene in open session.
I declare